analyzing contextualized embeddings produced by language models. Our design shows how much context is captured by embeddings, the ability of embeddings to capture meaningful text spans, and linguistic relationships represented by the embeddings.
What do you believe is the correlation between labor union participation and corporate profits of different companies? How would you update your belief after seeing this scatter plot? In this study, we use a new elicitation technique to understand how people update their beliefs about correlations after seeing different visualizations with and without uncertainty depictions.
In this work, we conducted a design study with clinical researchers to develop a visual analytics application for exploring disease progression pathways. As a result, we developed VIS, which seamlessly integrates hidden Markov models with interactive visualizations. The usage scenario and user experiences demonstrate the usefulness of the application to gain useful insights out of disease progression trajectories in a transparent manner.
It is common for users to struggle to understand how to effectively use TS&E. No idea how to select hyperparameters, assess the quality of the results, investigate the existence of shapes and other patterns. TVS&E covers all these tasks. We provide diverse projections to choose from, global and local quality assessment, investigations of shapes and patterns, and more.
Tableau helps you see the stories in your data. It's designed to help you be smarter, so you can make better decisions faster. Connect to the data you care about. Sort, highlight, drill down, or filter your data in seconds. Add calculations to extend your data. With Tableau, you can keep on asking questions in the data until you discover the root cause. Tableau. Answer questions at the speed of thought.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm Heikyu Park from Georgia Tech. I'm very excited to present Bluff, a visualization tool to interactively decipher adversarial attacks on deep neural networks. Deep learning is now commonly used in many domains. For example, in the medical field, deep learning models can estimate the treatment effects on patients. On the road, we can see self-driving cars using computer vision technologies. However, deep learning models are vulnerable to adversarial attacks. An adversarial attack applies carefully crafted perturbations on data inputs and fools a model into making incorrect predictions. Adversarial attacks jeopardize many deep learning-based technologies, especially in security and safety-critical applications, such as data-driven healthcare and self-driving cars. Due to the threats of the adversarial attacks, people cannot confidently use deep learning models. To overcome the vulnerability of deep learning models, we need to understand how the adversarial attacks permeate the model's internals. Also, for a better understanding about adversarial attacks, it would be worthwhile to examine if and how an attack strength changes how the model produces incorrect predictions. For example, it would be useful to know if a stronger attack exploits the same neurons as a weaker attack does, or if those sets are completely different. We present Bluff, an interactive visualization tool for discovering and interpreting how adversarial attacks mislead DNN into making incorrect predictions. Our main idea is to visualize activation pathways within a DNN traversed by the signals of input data. For given input data, an activation pathways consist of neurons that are highly activated and the most influential paths. Activation pathways represent what features are detected and how those features are related to contribute to the final prediction. To understand how the attacks manipulate the neurons and the paths inside the models, Bluff visualizes the activation pathways of both benign inputs and attacked inputs. That is, Bluff finds and visualizes the most activated pathways given benign and attacked input data. Bluff also visualizes the most inhibited paths by the attack to uncover where the attack is blocking the signals to the benign path. Also, Bluff visualizes the most excited paths by the attack to uncover where the attack stimulates to induce the activation pathways going towards wrong directions. The Bluff interface tightly integrates three coordinate views. It consists of control sidebar, graph summary view, and detail view. Here, a user inspects why a deep learning model misclassifies adversarial giant panda images crafted by the projected gradient descent attack as armadillo. In the main graph summary view, we visualize the activation pathways of benign and attacked input data. Here, each vertex represents a neuron. When hovering over a neuron, Bluff shows the detailed information of the neuron. The detailed view for a neuron shows a feature visualization and example data that visualize what feature the neuron is detecting. For example, for giant panda images, this neuron looks for face of animals that have white furs and dark eyes. Feature visualization is a synthesized image that maximizes the corresponding neuron's activation. Dataset examples are patches of images from the training data that highly activate the corresponding neurons. We also show how the neuron's median activation will change according to different attack strengths. Here in the graph summary view, the neurons are represented with different colors based on their roles. The green nodes are the most important neurons only for the original class giant panda, which means they are highly activated by benign giant panda images. The blue nodes are important neurons only for the target class armadillo. The orange nodes are the most important neurons for both original and target classes, giant panda and armadillo. The red nodes are the neurons that are highly activated by only successfully attacked images. These neurons are exploited by the attack to induce the incorrect prediction. By exploring the activation pathways, PGD successfully perturbed pixels to induce the brown bird features, an appearance more likely shared by an armadillo than a panda. Both armadillo and brown birds have small, roundish, and brown bodies. The brown bird neuron then contributes to the armadillo misclassification by activating more features such as scales, bumps, and mesh. By using the options in the control sidebar, users can interactively filter the neurons and connections to visualize. For example, they can select to visualize R graph, or only highlighted neurons, or only pinned neurons. By using the highlight pathways options, users can select which activation pathways to visualize, such as most activated or most inhibited, excited, or most changed by the attack. By using the comparison mode, users can compare how attacks of different strengths have different activation pathways. In summary, we developed Bluff, an interactive system to understand how adversarial perturbations flow of deep learning model. Bluff visualizes most activated, inhibited, excited activation pathways after the attacks, and provides flexible comparison of attack escalation. Thank you all for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Data stakeholders are rarely the data experts. Making tools for them means considering how they communicate about data. Rules are a convenient way for humans to express patterns in data, like we need high variable X and low variable Y. In our human-in-the-loop approach, the user selects points of interest and can immediately see rules that differentiate those data from the rest. Lots more detail in the paper, even though it's short.
Blockchain has gained more attention and its applications are emerging. We collect 76 blockchain visualization tools and systematically classify them into 5 aspects: target blockchain, blockchain data, target audience, task domain, and visualization type. In the end, we look at open challenge in blockchain visualization.
There are many similarities between visual analytics and interactive optimization. The design of visual interfaces for optimization systems is an application of visual analytics. However, many optimization systems are automated. If you are thinking of building an interactive optimization system, come to our talk. We have prepared some tips for you.
Firstly, we extract contours of virions and distribution of spike proteins. From a newly estimated contour, a 3D mesh with evaluated triangles is obtained. In the last step, rules describing relations between protein instances are defined by the user. The resulting model is created by application of all rules on the generated 3D mesh.
Tableau helps you see the stories in your data. It's designed to help you be smarter, so you can make better decisions faster. Connect to the data you care about. Sort, highlight, drill down, or filter your data in seconds. Add calculations to extend your data. With Tableau, you can keep on asking questions in the data until you discover the root cause. Tableau. Answer questions at the speed of thought. Tableau helps you see the stories in your data. It's designed to help you be smarter, so you can make better decisions faster. Connect to the data you care about. Sort, highlight, drill down, or filter your data in seconds. Add calculations to extend your data. With Tableau, you can keep on asking questions in the data until you discover the root cause. Tableau. Answer questions at the speed of thought.
Hello and welcome to the VIS 2021 kickoff. My name is Brian Summa, and Gustavo Nonato and I are the general chairs for VIS 2021. And the location for the conference will be New Orleans, my hometown. I'm going to first talk a little bit about New Orleans. It's a vibrant, unique city in the southern United States, just sitting on the Gulf Coast. New Orleans is a major tourist destination in the US. It has its own unique culture, food, and music, and is generally a wonderful place to hold a conference. It's a city that's rich in history, whether or not it's the history of the city itself, or its many neighborhoods, for instance, a historic French Quarter, and it's also the home of the National World War II Museum. New Orleans is known for its food. It's traditionally known for its Cajun and Creole cuisines, but it's also the home of many world-class restaurants. It's definitely a city where you want to eat out. But it's the music and nightlife that bring many people to New Orleans. Right? So you can find Zydeco, gospel, jazz, funk, R&B, what have you, any sort of music playing all nights of the week. So here's an example on the bottom of a map where I've mapped pretty much every live music venue that's in close vicinity to our conference venue location. New Orleans just isn't for adults. There is a world-class zoo and aquarium, also Mardi Gras World, where they actually make the floats, and also we have a new children's museum. New Orleans is also interesting geographically. It's where the Mississippi empties into the Gulf of Mexico, so there are bayous and swamps to explore and all sorts of interesting wildlife. We also have a brand new airport that has increased our service nationally and internationally, and it's just a generally wonderful place to come and go. Since we're a tourist town, we have ample accommodations. For instance, there are 25,000 rooms, either short walking distance or short Uber away from the conference center. And generally, this is a wonderful time of year to visit New Orleans. It's a town that really loves the macabre. So something like Halloween, which happens at the end of this month, is a festival and event season that this town takes very seriously and is generally a lot of fun. But the major selling point to have a visit in New Orleans is the weather. So this is the current temperature as I record this video. So the conference space right now we're looking at is in the New Orleans Convention Center. If anyone's been there, you know that this is a wonderful venue. It's currently being remodeled, so it should be fairly revamped by 2021. And the outside portion of the convention center is currently and almost done being remodeled into a long linear park promenade that will give us some interesting outdoor space options. The space inside the convention center is pretty unique.
So what
we'll have is a block of rooms about the New Orleans Theater, which is a really large theater venue, a concert venue. So each, it can be broken up into three portions.
Yes.
Like you see in the image, A, B, and C. And each one of those can seat about 1,000 people.
So I'll just go ahead and talk.
So it gives us some interesting options when it comes to, if we do something in person, any social distancing that we need to do. The conference hotel right now is the Hilton Riverside. This is a great location. It's a very close walk to the New Orleans Convention Center and is actually steps away from the French Quarter, so the touristy part of the city that has all the restaurants and live music. It also has a very interesting health center. It is absolutely enormous. It's about 9,000 square meters, and that's not an exaggeration. It actually is that big. Has multiple tennis courts, volleyball courts, basketball courts up there. So generally an interesting hotel. New Orleans also gives us a lot of interesting options when it comes to social venues. We were looking at two primarily before the pandemic hit. The first one was Kern Studios, which is also called Mardi Gras World. This is the place where they actually make all the floats that go through the streets during Mardi Gras here in New Orleans. Sort of these large, sort of multi-tiered floats. It gives us interesting options in regards to either a banquet or a reception. It's fairly large, so there's a lot of space to be able to spread out. It also has a very large outdoor component. So if we're in a social distancing scenario, we can actually have a sort of fairly large space where we can keep somewhat separated. And the second place we were looking at was the Audubon Aquarium, which is a wonderful space and is literally right outside the door of our hotel. So this concludes our presentation about VIS as if we were going to hold it in person. Okay, so as you may have seen in our surveys that we sent out, there's still an open discussion on whether or not we want to have VIS in person or if we want to go virtual for VIS 2021 as well. So at this point, this is the end of this pre-recorded video. We'll talk about the survey and have some question and answers about moving VIS forward in the live session after this.
Okay, so I'm assuming we're live. So sorry about talking over the video. So as you can see, it's kind of a weird setup that we have. I had to dial in on a phone today. Last night, some of you may have heard, we had a hurricane, very unusual to happen at this time of year, which you know, the town knows how to handle, but my internet at home isn't very stable. So I've kind of, so I've asked Gustavo to kind of go through the slides I was going to present live, just to kind of make sure everybody can get the right information, and then I'll be able to chime back in at the end of the Q&A. All right, Gustavo.
Hello, everyone. Hope you can see my slides. In fact, before starting, I have to thank Brian for all this material that I'm going to be showing you right now. And thank you so much, Brian, for this. And I mean, we start this conversation talking about in person or virtual, you know? And here's the current scenario, you know, about COVID. We don't have any idea how the situation will go in the same time next year. So it's difficult to make any kind of prediction about this right now. And so all this uncertainty, put us, in this holding situation. And the idea is forego the decision until we have to make one. No, we will make our decision based on the community feedback and also in the financial viability. We know that probably the ideal scenario next year is going to be a mixed format where we have part of the conference online and also part in person. But we know that the cost to run this is pretty high. So we have to take this in account when we make our decision as well. No? And we have the feelings of the community right now. I'll show you in the slide, in the next slide. And the idea is to keep running these surveys periodically until we make the final decision, just to see the feelings of our community about running the conference in person or virtual again. So this is the current result of the survey. If you have to make the decision today, 60% of our community votes for virtual, and we had 186 responders. And you can see here that US citizens or people that lives in US are a little bit more inclined to run the conference in person. But I'm pretty sure that this might change even further when times move on. Also, in-person voters are generally more confident about traveling. And so help us to plan this 2021. Participate on the periodic survey that we will going to be put online. And so the current survey, you're going to be online for another week. So if you have not participated yet, please let us know your opinion there. And the result of each one of those surveys is going to be reported and documented during the OC documents and also reported during the meetings. The next survey should be posted by early December, late November. And obviously we will let you know when we make it available. And even if we are apart, we will still be together, because next year, the VIS conference is going to be unified, so a different format, and obviously making all of us more tighter together. So before continuing the presentation, more specifically talking about the structure for next year, I would like to open for questions and some comments, feedback, and Brian can help us on this as well. I know that everybody now, I mean, we don't have answers yet, so we have more doubts than answers, but comments and feedback would be nice. Okay, so if we don't have any questions, I'll move on with the presentation. Okay, so we'll try to make a practical overview about the structure for next year. It's important to say that any question about the structure itself should be sent to the revise. Brian and I, we don't have much power to decide anything about this structure.
Yeah. So I'll answer the, if you could go ahead, Gustavo, and I'll answer the questions I see appearing on Discord. So I'll do that.
Let me see the, okay, we have a question here. The first question is from Hendrik. Dangerous, is it financially to plan for offline? Yeah.
So right now, right now we have a contract with the hotel that was made before the pandemic and actually matured before the pandemic actually hit as well. So we have a financial liability when it comes to the hotel. So that's kind of the thing that's hanging over our heads at the moment. We're going to, there is a possibility of sort of pushing sort of for force majeure when it comes to the hotel because we made it for the pandemic, but we're still so far out that we can't really do that. So in a way, we're kind of trying to figure out how far we could push along that contract without it becoming too much of a financial liability to kind of delay the decision as much as we can. So that's sort of the biggest, I guess, hitch that we have sort of moving forward with sort of how financially, right? So we actually are already on the hook for some money. So Petra asked if we're virtual, you're continuing to keep the current registration structure. I think it's, so what we'll definitely talk about it after this conference. Just given the attendance, sort of the Valerio will present it tomorrow. We have had huge attendance this year from first-time attendees. I think it's something we really have to seriously consider moving forward to keep this conference, financially viable, but then also allow for people to sort of new time or people that can't pay the usual registration fee to join us. So Petra asked specifically for virtual. If we're in person, then the cost structure goes completely different. But yeah, so if virtual, I definitely think it's something we'll sort of consider strongly. What a hybrid conference would look like. So we don't know that. So right now, what we have to figure out is, in a way, what we'll have in New Orleans if we have an in-person conference is less people for the same amount of space, which means more money, right? So in a way, less people will be paying attendance fees, sort of unusual attendance fees, and we'll have the same amount of costs, right? So when it comes to sort of expanding to hybrid, it's going to be really driven by what we could afford as a conference moving forward. So, I mean, ideally, we would like to have some of the sessions be synchronous, like pretty much the virtual conference, okay? But that would be the more expensive option, okay? And asynchronous would be the less expensive option, where we'd have, student volunteers, film so each of the sessions, and then we upload it like later in the evening. So that's kind of why in the survey I was asking sort of what people felt was valuable. It turned out, of course, synchronous was more valuable, but asynchronous was actually fairly valuable as well. So I'd like to know about the likely pricing structure under each model. Yes, so that, in a way, what we're going to first have to figure out is, can we basically, does the community want an in-person VIS, okay, in such numbers that it's something we can actually figure out the finances for, so what the registrations would be, and whether or not people would be willing to pay for these registrations, right? If we get to a point where basically in order to run the conference the registration fees are too high, then obviously that would sort of dictate what we would end up doing for in-person or virtual. So then, can we do this? If people want it to be in person, can we do it safely, and can we do it, in a financially, soluble way? All right. And then, that's kind of then figuring out what the actual price structure would be in that process. All right, so and we don't have an answer for that yet. Okay, one last question, Helmut. That's a really good point. Whether or not the hybrid model is offered, whether or not future, basically everybody would go hybrid, because obviously it would cost less. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll have to consider in the future. So Danielle, so we don't plan to get into the so Mike and Valerio had a pretty really tough decision this year, and basically they were planning in person until it was not possible anymore. We have more knowledge this year, even though it's still really fluid. I mean, I think the possibility of in person is riding on the fact of a viable vaccine, even what the election is in a week. Basically, I have a feeling that sentiment will change either direction depending on what happens there. So we don't plan on getting to the point where we at the last minute switch, right? So we're going to push it as far along until it's clear whether or not in person can happen, or if obviously if the community sentiment is that we should have virtual and it's consistent that way, we're likely to switch to that from the start. Yeah, so from Lynn, yeah, that's basically why we started this conversation. Honestly, what I've been watching, all the vaccine reports for the past few months, and what's the best scenario. It really depends on these the ones that are in the third trial phases, whether or not they actually are widely distributed. So if they're widely distributed by in the beginning of the summer, I could see us really thinking about in person. If some of the predictions are they're widely distributed by September. If that's the case, then we're not going to be in a good place to actually be able to have an in-person conference. Oh, so Amy, we'll probably have, so yeah, there is a list. I think Hen is keeping track of that. Yep. And we'll definitely be using that to move forward.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. All right. Yep. I think I think the questions have. I'll answer them on Slack. But Gustavo, why don't you go ahead with the rest of the slides, and I'll kind of type in the rest of the answers.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Okay, so I'm going to present the structure of the conference and what we have from next year on. We have the executive committee, the steering committee, and then the core committee, and the 4 sub committees that made up the whole conference. So I will detail a little bit those subcommittees, and then I will show you who we have already on board. So currently the steering committee is made up of these people over here. Stephen North is the chair. The executive committee, we have Lisa Avila as the chair. And the current format of core committee is this one. So the general chair is Brian and I. The program chair is Galton. Financial chairs, Marie and Loretta. We still have to figure out who is going to be the archive chair. The onboards people is Christy, Chris, Galton, and Sheila. And the incoming chairs is Tim, Sarah, and Michael. Okay, the main events. I think here is where we have the major change for next year. no, because now you have the overall chairs and the area chairs. No? So here we have the overall chairs, and then we have the area chairs. No? We have 5 different areas, if I'm not wrong: theoretical and empirical, applications, system and rendering, data transformations, analytics and decisions. And we also have the area curation committee. As far as I understood the structure, the area curation committee is responsible to define the areas where the area paper chairs will be assigned to. And here is a summary of what I just showed you. Then we have the short paper chairs, poster chairs, panels, tutorial, VIV, and now the infrastructure. Now, this is pretty much similar to what we have currently. We have meetups chairs, fast forwarding videos, the tech chairs, and now start to show up some slots here that you have to fill up. No? Students volunteer. The web chairs have to be defined. The same for open practice. Publications, we also have nobody there. The outreach. Supporters have to be defined. For publicity, we already have 1, 2, but the other people are still to be defined. For community chairs, we are all set. Election chairs has still to be defined. Inclusivity is all set. VIS kids has to be defined. In terms of associated events, we have the chairs for the workshops. This art program, we are still incomplete. For VIP, the chairs have to be defined. For application, we have Christy there, but the other people must be defined. Doctoral colloquium is all settled. SciVis contest is also settled. Best challenge as well. And the idea is to release the challenge in the spring 2021. And some communication and how we are planning to communicate with all those people and with the whole structure of the conference. So we have the info dumps. That's essentially reports that is made for the chairs from the current year to keep us a history of the conference. We also have the VIS conference management site. I'll detail a little bit this further. We have the email lists, the Google Docs repository, the Slack, and obviously the periodical conference calls that will happen on Wednesdays as I will detail in the following. So the management site is needs to be updated, after next week, maybe opening including the information for 2000 to 2001. I'm listing here the email lists for all the committees. so that we can have access to this. This is going to be on the website as well. And here all the mailing lists. This presentation is going to be in the Google Drive, so you can give a look on the email lists if you need. An important point here is that those email lists are still pointing to the current chairs. Probably by the end of this week or early next week, the email should be updated to direct to the 2021 chairs. And another important information is for the chairs now is trying to use the lists instead of sending personal emails unless strictly necessary, because then you can keep everybody involved in the loop. And here's the repository that we're going to be sharing with all the chairs and the people that is involved in the organization, the Slack, and the conference calls should follow exactly the same structure as we did this year. We have the calls on Wednesdays, and this time here that's going to be important because since the next chairs are from Australia, so they should pay attention on this schedule over here. And the first call is set for November 18, where we should have most of those slots already filled. And the idea is to run the calls from November to March every second week. And from April 1, the calls will take place every week. And all the calls has the minutes where we try to register what the main points and the decisions that is made during the calls, so that we can keep the history and also keep everything registered. And the next step is now are connect with co-chairs. We should be sending the emails soon to keep all of us in contact. And making all the communication channels available. For the continuing members, we ask them to fill up the info dumps. That is very important and very helpful for the chairs that are arriving now. New members, the recommendation is starting by reading the info dumps and to get used about the procedures and get informed about what worked, what didn't work this year and previous years as well. Keep watching the announcements. And we also have a form for self-nomination. If you would like to jump on board and volunteer for some of those open positions I just mentioned, then we have this form here, and the link for this form is also available here in the Discord. Obviously, the steering committee will decide about the names, but we really encourage people to apply for the open positions. We need help on that. We have a draft of the welcome page that is in staging already. Should be online soon. And that's it. So now I open for questions and comments. So the first question is from Albert. Are we applying the conference name change this year? I really don't know, Albert. Brian, do you
Yeah,
know?
I don't know what that means either. Alper, can you give a little more info on what you mean?
So, any other question?
I think so. Let's give him a second.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Probably then. Sorry, these are the I guess all of the kinks in the new system, right? So then probably if that's the new name, we'll have to change it.
Yeah. That's the most important thing, Petra.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Petra.
Yeah.
I really liked our logo this year. I was very Mardi Gras. Yep. So as Alper posted, the website is kind of getting ready. Once the sort of virtual conference is over, we'll kind of migrate this new website to be the main website. Once I fill in the actual welcome note.
Yeah, I see these comments about the hybrid format. I think for the future,
so
the hybrid would be the natural way to go, but I'm not sure about next year.
So personally, I kind of feel sad this year about VIS that we weren't able to meet in person. So coming to VIS and seeing all of my friends and colleagues is a highlight of my year. For me, if we can pull off an in-person VIS, I would like to try to with sort of a hybrid component. That's kind of I agree. It kind of makes more sense to switch to virtual sooner than later. So I definitely will make we will make the call on switching to virtual as soon as we can. But I'd really like to see if we can do in person. See what that process would be like if we can do a safe, in-person VIS. It still account for all of the sort of the travel, the possible, if the virus is still around at the rate it is right now, yeah, no way we're going to be in person. But if we're in a place that looks like maybe we can have even a very pared down in person, and then have a hybrid component that would be sort of at the quality that we've had this year in virtual VIS, then I would. That's just kind of what my personal preference would be. But again, it's going to be more than my personal preference. It's going to be the will of the community that's going to drive this. So if there's a survey, please fill it out in the future to sort of make sure that we know sort of what everybody's opinions are sort of moving forward. Okay.
We have a question here, Brian, about if there is a description of the rules somewhere, and I don't think so. But if you are interested in any of those positions, then you can send a message to me and Brian.
Yeah, I don't. So maybe perhaps there's someone in. So I haven't seen any description, but I can only imagine they exist somewhere. So one thing you can look at is the info dump that's in the sort of the conference management website. In 2019, it wasn't really filled out, but if you go to the previous year in 2018, there's pretty much the all of the chairs pretty much did a sort of a dump of what we did in that year, basically as a guide to the future years. So if you're kind of interested in position, I would go look at that. And if you're, if you want more info, if somebody who's been kind of send an email to myself or Gustavo, just asking what a position is about. We'd be happy to kind of tell you at least what we saw from the last year, what this role did, especially the virtual viz versus in-person viz. Role would definitely take a different flavor. So we could kind of give you an idea of what, if it goes either way, what would be involved. Okay. Yep.
I see. This discussion here is really interesting on the hybrid or not.
So if we missed anybody's question, I mean, I'm kind of trying to follow the feed as fast as I can. If you kind of want to, I guess, quote a question if we missed it. So will we go purely in person? I doubt it. So there's not many scenarios I could see where we would have the usual attendance at VIS. There is going to be a percentage of the community that won't be able to come. So yes, I doubt we'll have sort of a pure, as of 2018 VIS happening. There is going to have to be some hybrid component to it for the community.
Sure, Will.
Thanks, Will, for editing those out. That was something I didn't consider, and thanks for doing that. Yeah, so eventually, so when it comes to links, eventually if you're on the OC, you'll get links to the full roster, the sort of the schedule, and all the other sort of Google Docs. I specifically didn't put those in these slides just because I knew it would be a sort of a public stream. Yes, basically, I totally agree. So, when it comes to the conference center, the hotel room block, as we get it, there's going to be a minimum number of people that we'll have to have in person at sort of the typical fee in order to make in person make sense. So if this is why the community surveys are so important. So in some way, if you think that you're not going to, basically, if we offer a hybrid component, there'll be definitely a question coming down the road that, if we offer hybrid in person, which one would you likely be doing? It would give us a good idea about how many people would, opt for the hybrid over the in-person, so we can get a good idea of how many people would actually show up and whether or not that's enough to not be, running loss.
totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with sort of the new voices in the community. It the attendance this year is off the charts, right? So when it comes to sort of new people into VIS, this is a momentum that I don't think we should lose moving forward, and definitely is something I sort of personally want to make sure still continues. So are all the open positions listed on the Google form? So yes, if generally I think in that form we are looking for, and anything that's listed there has a vacancy that we're looking to fill. All right, we've had a bunch of people already fill it out. So if you fill it out, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll be picked, but definitely there are open positions for the ones on that form.
Well, thank you, Jim. Yeah.
Oh yeah, So just to sort of just final clarification with the slides. This was the slides I made yesterday morning. Before the hurricane, stole my power and internet. So the TBD are not completely accurate. The form is a better way to look at what's still open.
Okay, we are running out of time here.
Okay. Yep. So I guess we can sort of end the actual stream and sort of live session. I'll stay on the Discord to answer any additional questions.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Given a dimensionality reduction scatterplot, we project its original subspace. Through the orientation and shape of our glyphs, both the global trends and local patterns can be identified. To transform